After my family fell into misfortune, me uncles wanted to seize the estate, so they sent me off to Qinghe Commandery. Kui Wangji of Qinghe was the fiancé father had arranged for me when he was still in power. But when Kui Wangji saw how destitute I was, he sneered. "Sure, I'll marry you once this young master passes the provincial exam." I waited year after year, but never heard news of this wastrel making the list. His friends praised my devotion, but Kui Wangji's face was full of disgust. A social climber like her still wants to marry a provincial graduate. Whichever of you passes the exam, hurry up and marry her off, so she stops being an eyesore in my house. That year, his classmate Shi Yunzhou achieved the top score in the provincial exam. At the looming banquet, Shi Yunzhou asked him, "Brother Kui, does your promise from back then still count?" When Shi Yunzhou came to the door with betrothal gifts, Kui Wangji happened to be out carousing. After the matchmaker finished reading the betrothal gift list, seeing me standing dazed under the hanging flower gate corridor, she urged, "Miss Su, you need to give an answer." I raised my head toward the voice. The first thing I saw was Uncle Kui's face, eager and impatient, wishing he could accept the marriage on my behalf. The second was Shi Yunzhou standing beside him, scholarly air about him. Everyone in the courtyard was watching me. Even some maids were quietly making bets. Miss Su won't marry him. She has been chasing after the young master for so many years. How could she marry someone else? My fists clenched and unclenched inside my sleeves. And finally I asked, "Do you know I have a marriage engagement with Kui Wangji?" As soon as the words left my mouth, I felt some regret. The engagement between Kui Wangji and me had long become a joke. 4 years ago, I sat in a shabby ox cart stopped at the Kui family's gate, waiting half a shikan before someone led me inside, passing through the imposing front courtyard, walking along the winding covered corridors. The Kui family's grandeur made my heart tremble with fear. I clutched tightly my patched bundle, every step like walking on knife points, but mother's dying wish and uncle's ferocious gaze kept appearing repeatedly in my mind. I took a deep breath and quickened my pace to catch up with the servant leading the way. When I stood before the Kui family, Kui Wangji was slouching sideways in his chair. Yawning, he glanced at me sideways, showing not a trace of the child who used to chase after my carriage, crying, "Sister, Su, you must come back to find me." I explained my purpose with a flushed face. Uncle Kui frowned in silence, but Aunt Kui called me forward, held my hand and shed tears, weeping over my mother's early death. She said, "Stay here for now." Kui Wangji watched his parents' interaction and sneered. "Fine, this young master will marry you once I pass the Juran examination." At that time, I never imagined that this single sentence of his could trap me for 4 years. Although Aunt Kui told me to stay without worry, Kui Wangji came looking for me that very night. He glanced around the guest room, snorted coldly, and directly grabbed my bundle to take it outside. He finally stopped at the side courtyard, randomly found an empty servant's quarters and tossed my bundle inside. Su Siyu ran from Danshan Commandery to Qinghe Commandery, just to climb the social ladder. "You are really thick-skinned. Since your skin is so thick, go live with the maids and stay out of my sight." Seeing my reddened eyes, he froze for a moment and turned his head away, as if explaining, "Letting you freeload at my house. You don't actually expect to be treated like a young lady, do you? I know how to read and write." I argued in my defense. "I can copy books. I'll pay you back." Kui Wangji's eyes rolled as if he'd thought of something fun. "You say you can write." He said since I wanted to stay, I'd have to help him copy books and do his schoolwork. I thought to myself, how hard could that be? But when I got to the study, my vision went dark. A pile of books half as tall as a person. Turns out his teacher punished him by making him copy books, and he couldn't return to the academy until he finished. I stayed up the entire night, and barely managed to finish copying 1 small volume. Before I could even rest, Aunt Kui summoned me to the west side courtyard. She said Kui Wangji never set foot in the study before, but now that I'd arrived, he'd actually gone near it, and asked me to please guide Kui Wangji onto the right path. That master prophesied that you would receive an imperial commendation and have a destiny that protects the household. Even if you hadn't come to Qinghe Commandery, we would have gone to fetch you. These were just pleasantries. I didn't take them to heart. If they truly cared, when my father met with disaster, how could the Kui family act as if they were blind and deaf, unwilling to offer even the slightest bit of help? Now that they're willing to give me a roof to shelter me from wind and rain, I am already very grateful. After leaving the western side courtyard, I went straight to the study, wanting to finish copying the books as soon as possible. But when I pushed open the door, I saw paper balls scattered all over the floor, all in my handwriting. Kui Wangji didn't notice me at the doorway and was cursing furiously at a tall, slender figure. Rush, 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 that guy surnamed Shi even. If I tear up all these copied books, I won't let you take them to hand in to the teacher. That figure shook his head. Brother Kui, I am merely delivering a message for the teacher, urging you to complete your coursework early. If you are unwilling, I won't force you. Kui Wangji kicked over the pile of books. Halfway through his words, his peripheral vision caught sight of me with reddened eyes, and his momentum weakened. But his mouth still wouldn't let up. Shi Yunzhou, if you come to provoke me again next time, just watch how I'll beat you up. Shi Yunzhou turned to look at me. Our eyes met, and I quickly looked away. Actually, I didn't want to cry, but my eyes have always been quick to redden, and I've never been able to control my tears. This was the first time I met Shi Yunzhou. That day after he left, Kui Wangji saw me picking up the paper balls one by one and carefully smoothing them out. He said dryly, I didn't do it on purpose. If you want to blame someone, blame Shi Yunzhou. I looked up at him. Do you still need me to copy books for you? He tossed out, obviously, and bolted out of the study. I toiled for half a month, and finally had him take the copied manuscript back to the academy to complete his assignment. From then on, things were peaceful for a while, but he still wouldn't do his coursework. He dumped it all on me. Until one day, I sat under a tree helping the little maid Hongshu draw embroidery patterns. When I first arrived at the Kui residence, Hongshu looked down on me the most. At first, she thought I was social climbing with Kui Wangji. Then later, when she heard that Kui Wangji would only marry me after passing the provincial exam, she pitied me instead. She said I was done for, that I'd never be able to marry in this lifetime. Her words became prophecy. Kui Wangji couldn't even pass the provincial exam, and to this day isn't even a shukai. He whiles away his days at the academy while I've been writing his coursework for 3 years. Uncle Kui wanted to arrange meetings with young ladies from other noble families for him, but he used me as a shield. I already said I'd marry Susi after passing the exam. Stop bothering me about this. During this time, I ate and lived together with the Kui household servants, and our relationship became quite familiar. When I wasn't writing coursework for Kui Wangji, I'd draw patterns and copy books to save money, thinking that once I saved enough to support myself, I'd leave the Kui residence. I was chatting with Hongshu about future livelihood when I didn't notice Kui Wangji had arrived at the side courtyard entrance. Seething with anger, he strode up to me in 2 steps and tore apart the freshly inked flower pattern. Kui Wangji, what has gotten into you? He said through gritted teeth. From now on in the Kui residence, you are forbidden from reading or writing. It turned out Shi Yunzhou had discovered his coursework wasn't completed by himself, and bluntly said his talent and learning were inferior to mine. The tutor was very disappointed after learning this. The poems you've submitted recently were exceptionally elegant. I never expected they were ghostwritten by someone else. The peaceful situation was shattered, and others learned that he was keeping his fiancé at home. A woman desperately waiting for him to pass the imperial examination. Every time they drank, people would tease him about it. Kui Wangji would always show a disdainful smile. A social climber trying to marry up, and she still wants to marry a juren. Whichever of you passes the exam, hurry up and marry her away, so I don't have to keep this eyesore at my house. And today I asked Shi Yunzhou, do you know that Kui Wangji and I are engaged? His gaze was like spring wind brushing willow. Brother Kui said that Miss Su wants to marry a juren. I was fortunate enough to place first in the provincial exam. I wonder if I might catch Miss Su's eye. Si Yunzhou stood there like a pine or cypress, the light blush on his ear tips betraying his inner nervousness. He actually looked like he genuinely wanted to marry me. All right then. Kui Wangji, I am not waiting for you anymore. I'll write. I'll marry you." The words had barely left my mouth when an angry shout came from outside. "Susi!" The servant ran to the tavern and fetched Kui Wangji. Reeking of alcohol, he asked, "Who did you say you are marrying?" Seeing his son about to fight with Shi Yunzhou, Uncle Kui scolded the household servants. "The young master is drunk. Why don't you hurry up and help him back to his room?" Kui Wangji shook off the servant and walked straight toward me. When passing by Shi Yunzhou directly blocked his way. Kui Wangji grabbed Shi Yunzhou by the collar. "You surnamed Shi, you dare make this real." Shi Yunzhou's voice carried a hint of delight. "Many thanks to Brother Kui for making this beautiful match possible." Jie und Kui rushed over in a hurry. With the lady of the house speaking, the servant stepped forward to restrain Kui Wangji, half dragging, half pulling him away. Once Kui Wangji disappeared at the courtyard gate. Uncle Kui hastily said the marriage between Xia and Wangji was just playful talk between his mother and Xia's mother. It doesn't count. Aunt Kui glared at him fiercely, then turned to stare at Shi Yunzhou. "Xia has been raised in my household for 4 years after all, and I've treated her like my own daughter. Why not let Xia marry from the Kui residence, so I can give her mother an explanation?" Shi Yunzhou looked at me deeply, then took his leave with impeccable courtesy. After everyone left, Aunt Kui led me to sit down in the west side courtyard, her tone carrying reproach. "Xia, how could you make such a big decision on your own?" Aunt Kui's words made my heart ache. She smoothed the tassels by my temples. "Aunt admits, Wangji is a bit willful and has wronged you. But if you just agree to scholar Xia like this, how can I explain it to your mother?" At the mention of mother, me heart grew even more bitter. When mother left, she held my hand and said her greatest regret was not being able to personally see me off at my wedding. "Your father met with disaster, and I too am worthless. I've already informed your uncles that you have a marriage arranged in Qinghe Commandery with your brother Wangji. If you can marry Wangji, the Kui family will surely protect you and keep you safe for life. But mother, you never told your daughter that people can change. Your sworn sister is fixated on my fate as a house, protecting talisman, and now that I want to leave, she is using you to tie me down." Aunt Kui thought she had persuaded me and gripped my hand with slight force. "Wangji has a childish temperament. He likes you very much. He is just not good at expressing his feelings. That Kui Wangji likes me is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Liking someone shouldn't be like this. At the Kui manor, eat and live alongside the servants. But the servants receive monthly wages while I don't. When I am short on things, I can only ask Hongshu to sell my embroidery and copied manuscripts for me. Come winter, the side courtyard never receives a coal allocation, so I can only buy extra cotton padding to endure the bitter cold. I know the Kui family would give if I asked, but living under someone else's roof, there is no need to speak up and invite disdain over things I can endure." Kui Wangji knew about my situation, but he still mercilessly used the manuscript I was preparing to sell as kindling and lit it, seeing me annoyed. He even said, "Just write it again, won't you? I've seen how father treated mother. Father never made mother angry, and even if mother shed a single tear, father would be so distressed. He couldn't sleep for half the night. Liking someone is not like how Kui Wangji does it." Madame Kui said, "How about I make the decision for you, help you call off the engagement with Scholar Shi, and arrange your marriage with Wangji?" She didn't ask for my opinion, and in just a few words decided to pin me down to the Kui family. I gently withdrew my hand. "Madam, I want to marry Shi Yunzhou." With the moon hanging on the treetops, I returned from the west courtyard to the side courtyard to pack my things. Hongshu came looking for me. "Didn't the master say you would marry from the Kui residence? Why are you packing your belongings?" I said, "Just now Madame Kui said she'd pick an auspicious day for me to marry Kui Wangji." Hongshu immediately started helping me fold clothes. "Then you'd better leave quickly. The auspicious day she is talking about. Who knows if it'll be years from now." The next day, when I came to the Kui residence, I carried a small bundle, and when I left, it was still a small bundle. Hongshu saw me off at the back door and stuffed a string of coins into my hand. She pinched the back of her hand and looked away. With that little money you've saved, even the housing agent wouldn't bother with you. I didn't decline. I really was short on money. Renting a place turned out to be much harder than I'd imagined. I wasn't a local and I had no guarantor, so the housing agents wouldn't do business with me. As the sky grew darker, I secretly grew anxious and could only find a small inn to make do for the night. Susie, just as I was about to step into a small inn, Simone called out to me from behind. Shi Yunjo, dressed in a blue robe, stood at the corner of the street holding a lantern. He quickly walked over to me, took my bundle, and freed one hand to grasp my wrist. Susie, I've been looking for you for a long time. Yunjo had arrived at the Kui residence early this morning. No one expected that he would enter through the front gate while I left through the back. He stopped in front of a small courtyard, looked down at me, and in the warm glow of the lantern, his eyes flickered with tenderness. After leaving the Kui residence yesterday, I rented this courtyard for you. I figured you'd probably want to leave the Kui residence. A small room, a water well, and a persimmon tree in the courtyard. In the past, I'd written in Kui Wangji's assignments. In a courtyard full of autumn colors, a tree of frosted persimmons hangs. Me heart felt like it was being gently tickled by a feather. The clean bedding, the complete set of utensils, everything showed the meticulous care of whoever prepared this. Shi Yunjo said, "The place isn't big. It can't compare to the QI residence. When I have time, I'll help you find a better one. I like it here. The entire QI residence couldn't compare to this small courtyard." Shi Yunjo was not from a wealthy family. His mother was the daughter of a martial arts school owner in Beishui County, who took a liking to his father in her youth. After he was recommended to Chingsong Academy to become a disciple of the headmaster, the family settled in Qinghai Commandery. But 5 years ago, his mother died of illness, and his father refused to leave her gravesite. Not long after, he passed away too. Without anyone to support him, the betrothal gifts he gave me were quite respectable, and within a single day he found a courtyard that suited my taste. I just don't know why he suddenly came to my door asking to marry me. Could it be he found out about my house? Stabilizing fate. Thinking of this, I instinctively said, "Young Master Shiance, I've saved enough for the courtyard rental. I'll pay you back." When Shi Yunjo left, he dawdled like he was under a dark cloud. After thinking it over, I immediately understood. He had spent a large sum of money. Yet I said I'd pay him back later, so it must be affecting his livelihood. I grabbed my purse and rushed out the door. "Si Yunjo," he quickly turned around. "I am here." I stuffed the purse into his hands and hurried back into the courtyard to close and lock the door. Suddenly my heart tightened. It seemed Shi Yunjo didn't have a lantern when he left. When I opened the door again, he was already gone from the street. Who knew that early the next morning, when I opened the courtyard door, I saw him standing outside. The morning breeze shook loose a red persimmon from the tree, and with a plop, it struck my heart. Shi Yunjo had changed into a neat round collar robe, holding a little black puppy in his hands, plump and chubby, just recently weaned. He set it down on the ground, and as soon as its feet touched the floor, it scurried into the house. "Last night I saw you were afraid of the dark, so I went and found this black dog. When it grows up, it'll be able to guard the house. That way, I can feel more at ease too." His eyes were bright and clear, looking at me with a smile. Me heart softened, and I suddenly thought of father and mother. Mother loved flowers. One day during a heavy rain, she forgot to move the orchids back inside. When she ran out to look, there in the pouring rain was father, crouched beside the orchids, holding an umbrella. Who knows for how long? The way father looked at mother then was exactly the same as how Shi Yunjo looked at me now. "Mother, you once said if Kui Wangji could treat me the way father treated you, you could rest in peace even under the 9 springs. Your daughter is unfilial. I don't want Kui Wangji anymore, even if Shi Yunjo is after my house. Protecting destiny, accept it." Shi Yunjo had a master consult our birth charts and set an auspicious date for next year in the 3rd month. I brazenly told him, "I don't have much of a dowry. Marrying me would just be settling down together. You'd better think it through." Zi Yunjo was in his prime on. The day the results were posted, plenty of wealthy families wanted to marry him. Some things I needed to ask clearly beforehand, to avoid him resenting me later for holding back his future. I wanted to confirm again and again that he truly wanted to marry me, to confirm that he was different from Kui Wangji. As I kept asking, he caught on to what I was thinking. Whenever I tried to beat around the bush again, he would always answer very seriously. So see, I really want to marry you. He always used the excuse of getting me daily necessities, sending over lots of clothes, fabrics, copper basins, and vanity sets. I could tell he was adding to my dowry, as new things kept being moved into the small courtyard, as Xiaohei kept getting fatter. My heart also seemed to be filled up bit by bit. I steamed brown sugar buns today, and Xiaohei kept barking greedily. Someone's at the door. I jogged over to open it. Shi Yunzhou, today the words stuck in my throat. Nanny Kui stood at the door, her face plastered with a smile. Yet the corners of her mouth drooped downward. Madam is gravely ill. I must trouble Miss Efsu to return with this old servant to see her. Sitting in the Kui family's carriage, I felt some regret. This old woman rushed me so urgently that I'd wanted to leave a note for Shi Yunzhou. When I turned to look for paper and brush, Nanny grabbed me. Xiaohei tried to pounce up to protect me, but Nanny shoved it away with one hand. Xiaohei fell against the carriage board, whimpering pitifully. I flung her hand off. Nanny, how rude. When I have time, I'll go see Aunt on my own. Nanny froze for a moment, realizing I'd long since had no relationship with the Kui family, and hastily put on an apologetic smile. Seeing I had no intention of leaving, she changed her tune. The Kui family took you in when you had no one to rely on. Miss, now that you've become successful, if you truly make this old servant return with an empty carriage, others will surely think you wouldn't even visit your benefactor on their sick bed. I am afraid it would tarnish young Master Shi's reputation. Such vicious words, every sentence claiming to be for my sake, yet threats hidden between every line. If I don't comply with her wishes today, by tomorrow morning rumors and gossip will surely spread throughout Qinghe County. I don't care. My reputation was already ruined by Kui Wangji long ago. But she just had to drag Shi Yunzhou into this. I gritted my teeth and got on the carriage, returning to the Kui estate again. My heart felt like it was weighed down by a massive stone. Entering the west side courtyard, Aunt Kui was reclining on the couch, wearing a rabbit fur forehead warmer, looking as if she'd caught a cold completely different from the gravely ill the old servant had described. She skipped the pleasantries and said with furrowed brows, "Since you left, Wangji has had no appetite for food or drink." I remained silent, secretly trying to guess her intentions. She patted my hand. "See, for your mother's sake, could you give Wangji one more chance?" "Aunt, you are too kind," I interrupted her. Just as Uncle said, the engagement between me and young Master Kui was nothing but childish talk. 4 years ago, it was improper of me to come seeking you out in the first place. Know that young Master Shi and I will be married soon. As for the so-called agreement with Mother, please don't take it to heart anymore. Aunt, to my surprise, she merely gave a bitter smile and released my hand. "Since you feel the fate between us has ended, just take pity on me. Before you leave, go persuade Wangji. If you tell him to give up in person, it'll work better than me saying it 10,000 times." Of course I didn't want to see Kui Wangji alone. "Madam, it is already late today. Tomorrow I'll go together with Lord Shi." As I spoke, I stood up, but just as I got to my feet, my arms felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds, and my legs felt like the bones had been pulled out, dragging me down to the ground. I forced my eyes open with difficulty to look at Madame Kui. She lay peacefully on the couch, looking down at me with eyes full of mockery and impatience. The old maidservant carried me out of the west side courtyard. The path we took ended at Kui Wangji's quarters. I relied on Madame Kui's last words to force myself to stay alert. "That my son has taken a liking to you is your good fortune. You don't appreciate the face given to you for your mother's sake. I'll show great mercy and grant you the position of concubine." For my mother's sake, she had said this phrase countless times, but only today did I hear the hidden jealousy and resentment in it. Seeing that I could barely speak, the old maidservant became arrogant. "Miss, wasn't your temper quite fierce during the day? You can forget about your dream of being the wife of a Jeyuan. You willingly got on the Kui family's carriage and took advantage of returning to the Kui residence to curry favor. With the Kui family, plenty of people will believe that story if it gets out. The next moment, something cold pressed against her neck. I held the bronze hairpin against the side of her neck. Though my hand trembled, the force was unmistakable. She valued her life dearly and suddenly let go. I took the chance to break free, stumbling and staggering until I leaned against a corridor pillar by the roadside. Me whole body was weak, but I was still conscious. I gripped the copper hairpin tightly and used every ounce of strength to move toward the outer courtyard. The old servant didn't dare make a scene. Madame Kui had instructed her to quietly send me to Kui Wangji's place and lock me up for the night, creating a fait accompli where I alone would bear all the infamy. If this really blew up, the Kui family couldn't afford the reputation of forcibly kidnapping a commoner woman, but if I escaped, she'd be in deep shit. I had already made up my mind. As long as I could escape beyond these courtyard walls, I'd report this to the authorities at daybreak. Even a clay figure has some backbone. My life was getting better day by day, yet the Kui family wanted to drag me back into the abyss. I refused. The old servant lifted her skirt and chased after me. My whole body trembled. I couldn't tell if it was the drug-taking effect or fear at work. I was moving my legs purely on instinct. Suddenly a dark figure came at me head. On caught between attackers front and back, I reflexively raised the copper hairpin in front of me to block. The hairpin tip grazed that person's arm, but the person I'd accidentally injured caught me steadily. Don't be afraid. I am here. My head felt too heavy to lift. My eyes wouldn't open. Fortunately, the old servant behind me could see clearly. Young Master Shi, when I came to. I recognized the familiar ceiling and breathed a sigh of relief. Then I remembered, did I scratch Shi Yunzhou with the hairpin, looking at my own clothes. They had been changed to clean garments, with a circle of neat linen wrapped around my waist. Oh, Miss Su is finally awake. Sister-in-law Zhang's voice arrived before she entered the door. Seeing me clutching my clothes with flushed cheeks, she slapped her forehead, knowing I had the wrong idea, and giggled with her hand over her mouth. That young master of yours is a proper gentleman. The night before last, he frantically knocked on my door. You two, one pale as a sheet, the other with an arm wrapped in cloth, nearly scared the soul out of me. I quickly asked, how is Shi Yunzhou? Sister. In-law Zhang shouted loudly towards outside. Scholar Xie young lady is worried about you. She teased me. Your Scholar Xie treats you like a treasure. These past few days he has been keeping watch outside for you. Hasn't closed his eyes once. After she left, I felt even more at a loss about how to face Shi Yunzhou. He stood at the doorway holding a bowl of medicinal soup. Ah, si, may I come in? I mumbled a response. After he sat down, I hid under the blanket and asked. That night, I really couldn't tell who was who. Do you believe me? Shi Yunzhou said nothing, only brought the medicinal soup before my eyes, tilting his head to look at me. He had a pair of beautiful eyes, like flower petals holding dewdrops. When he looked at someone with lowered lashes, it made one fall right in. Had fallen. After downing a bowl of medicinal soup, it was so bitter I wanted to gag. As my stomach churned, a pear syrup candy was stuffed into my mouth. As his fingers touched my lips, the scent of ink swept over me. Shi Yunzhou, what did you give me to eat? I can't catch my breath. This question made him quickly turn his face away, and I vaguely caught sight of the corners of his lips curving up. I decided to be direct. Shi Yunzhou, he really didn't mean to hurt you. He spoke softly. That little bit of force from you couldn't hurt me in the slightest. I just hate myself for arriving too late. Don't be angry with me. The wound wasn't big. After adjusting for a bit, I could get out of bed and volunteered to brew tea for Shi Yunzhou. As a child, I learned all those refined skills, which later benefited that bastard Kui Wangji. Knowing I brewed good tea, he'd search for famous teas from everywhere and demand I brew him a different one each day for him to taste. But with Shi Yunzhou, he declined repeatedly, only agreeing obediently after seeing he'd annoyed me. Last night, a heavy snow fell. When I was collecting snow outside the house, someone suddenly called out to me. Susi, looking back, My face immediately fell. Kui Wangji had found me. He wore a white fox fur and a golden-threaded auspicious cloud robe, extremely wealthy, looking completely out of place with my small courtyard. Seeing my face full of wariness, he smiled bitterly. That day I got drunk early on and had no idea my mother would actually. I didn't need to hear his explanations anymore. Young Master Kui, please leave. Madam Kui loves her son dearly. If she knew you came to tell me these things, she'd want me to be your concubine again. Kui Wangji hurriedly explained. How could I let you be a concubine? I told you I will marry you. Marry me. 4 years of grievances exploded all at once. Tell me, young Master Kui, with your half-baked scholarly abilities, how many decades will it take before you pass the imperial examination? If I go with you today, how many more 4 years do you plan to trick me into waiting? His eyes reddened slightly. Susie, as long as you come back with me. I won't take the examination anymore. I'll marry you right away. Heh, you won't take the examination. But I, Susie, insist on marrying someone who has passed it, he said through gritted teeth. Shi Yunzhou is dirt poor. Could only find this shabby courtyard for you to live in. Become the young mistress of the Kui household instead. Silks and satins for you to spend freely. Why suffer with him? I suddenly lost all interest in arguing with him. Kui Wangji, are you awake yet? Your Kui family is wealthy and noble. When have I ever enjoyed even a fraction of it? Kui Wangji's whole body shook. I was the one living in the servants' side quarters. I always diligently completed the coursework, brewed tea for him every day, and still had to endure his mockery. Susie, if Uncle Su knew you were using such refined skills to please me, would he be so angry he'd come scold you in his dreams? Little did he know, at that time I was thinking, I'd rather have my parents scold me in my dreams, so I could throw myself into their arms and let them see how the Kui family, who once received aid from my Su family, treated their daughter. Kui Wangji's parents are alive, and he has been showered with love. How would he know that I wash my face with tears every night, praying day after day for my parents to appear in my dreams? Kui Wangji, I used to actually hope you could return to being as honest with people as you were in childhood. Looking back now, it is laughably wrong. Get out of my sight. Like a shameless plaster that won't come off. He kept repeating, Sister Susie, I truly know I was wrong, while reaching out to grab me. Startled by his movement, I stepped back, forgetting about the snow. My footing slipped on the wet ground. Suddenly my whole body was supported by a force. Si Yunzhou wrapped his arm around my shoulder, letting me lean securely against his chest. He lifted his chin slightly. Brother Kui Ci is my fiancé. Regarding the Kui residence's insult to my fiancé, I haven't had the chance to come demand an explanation yet. Has Brother Kui come this time to provide one? I steeled myself, Kui Wangji. If you keep pestering me, I'll risk my entire reputation and go to the capital to accuse your Kui family of forcibly abducting a woman. Just as Kui Wangji seemed about to say something, Shi Yunzhou leaned against me, just a moment ago standing straight as a pine, suddenly frail as a willow. Ah, see, me shoulder hurts. Now I couldn't care less about Kui Wangji. I quickly helped Shi Yunzhou into the house. Kui Wangji was left in the courtyard. Only Xiaohei crouched at the doorway and barked at him a couple times. The fire Shi Yunzhou made was warm and strong. He sat at the table with smiling eyes, watching me brew tea. Since there were no teacups at home, I simply used soup bowls as tea vessels, which had a rather rustic charm. Come try this. It is beluochun I got from Luosi. In the blink of an eye, the year-end arrived. Si Yunzhou had to return to Beishui County to spend New Year with his old father. Though usually calm and carefree, he was visibly anxious before leaving. He helped me prepare all the New Year goods inside and out, stacking charcoal and firewood against the entire wall. At the end, he said, I've already greeted the prefecture office. If anyone gives you trouble, just go find Captain Zhang. He was afraid the Kuai family would lose it again while he was away. After Shi Yunzhou returned to Baishui County, Xiao Hai and I, one person and one dog, lived rather quietly. On New Year's Eve, Just as I was thinking about cooking 2 bowls of huntin, there came a knocking at the door. Having learned from the previous incident with the Kui family's maidservant, I carefully peeked through the door crack. A crisp voice came from outside. "Is this Sister Susie's home?" It was actually Hongshu. She was carrying a small bundle. Sister Susie, the young master, kicked me out. After a warm bowl of huntin, Hongshu finally recovered. Under my repeated questioning, she stammered, "Sister Susie, don't get angry after hearing this." Hongshu said that Qiwangji found a girl who resembled me by 50% and kept her in the back courtyard, claiming to outsiders she was a visiting cousin, naming her Bing Yui's jade-bearing Jew, glaze light floating emerald. This makes porcelain. That girl was a wine serving maid Qiwangji saw in a tavern. Later, when Qiwangji got drunk, he called out Sia to her. After making some inquiries, she learned of my existence and managed to drive away several maids who were close to me, taking advantage of Qiwangji's infatuation with her to erase the remaining traces of me in the Kui family. Just thinking that Qiwangji would actually treat someone else as my substitute really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Hongshu comforted me. "How the Kui family treated you back then, we sisters saw it clearly. It is better to leave the residence sooner." She planned to go stay with her elder sister's family, who had married into Jiangnan. When leaving, I secretly stuffed a 10-tael banknote into her bundle. Right on the heels of Hongshu's departure, Shi Yunzhou returned. He also brought news. The spring imperial examination in March. He would have to leave for the capital soon. The mountain master of Qingsong Academy went to the Tianshu Academy in the capital with a letter of recommendation and thought highly of him. Then what about me? We're set to marry in March. If he comes back to get married, wouldn't that delay the spring examination? If I travel with him before we're married, should anyone report him for violating propriety? His official career would also be affected. I bit my lip. Just go ahead, don't worry about me. We can discuss the wedding after the spring imperial examination ends. That is not too late. Having been a daughter of an official's family, I knew clearly in my heart that what Shi Yunzhou needed to rise to great heights was an in-law family of noble lineage. The Ku family looked down on me, ultimately because I was from a fallen household. How could feelings compare to the wonderful taste of power and influence? I didn't want to hold him back. Nor did I want him to say later that I held him back. Who would have thought that Shi Yunzhou's expression would change upon hearing these words? His eyes darkened. His long crow, black lashes lowered, concealing a flash of possessive intent in his gaze. Before I could explain, he spoke first. "Susie, let's get married at the end of this month. Are you willing?" His gaze pressed down heavily, like an invisible net binding me in place. My heart pounded wildly. "See, I told you. I've fallen for him. Have you all noticed, from beginning to end, Susie has been doing one thing, leaving herself an escape route, giving others a way out. Shi Yunzhou and Qiwangji, one uses promises as chains, the other uses actions as answers. The difference is just that vast getting married early inevitably brought some chaos, but everything Shi Yunzhou had prepared was complete in every detail. The musicians led the bridal sedan and stopped in front of the small courtyard. It was my first time seeing Shi Yunzhou on horseback. That white steed made him look like a wildfire in his bright red wedding robes. Aunt Zhang Hu was helping me with my hair and makeup, kept exclaiming how blessed I was. The bridal sedan swayed and rocked. But before long the festive music became unusually chaotic. The sedan bearers cursed. Young Master Kui insists on taking a concubine on this very day, blocking the way and refusing to yield. The Kui family's procession wouldn't budge an inch, quite the posture of overpowering others. A wedding attendant from the opposite side called out in a pinched voice. "Our young master sends word, telling young Master Shi to go first, lest people say our Kui family is bullying others." The bridal sedan continued moving forward. I suppressed the stuffiness in my chest and sat steadily inside the sedan. "Watch out." Before I could react, I was thrown to one side as we passed the Kui family's bridal sedan. A Kui family bearer twisted his ankle, and their sedan tipped entirely onto mine. After causing this commotion, the Kui family went to the street behind. The Shia family's procession moved swiftly, and before long came to a stop. I carefully stepped over the fire basin and bowed to heaven and earth. After sitting down by the bed, I saw that what lifted my veil was a jade ruyi scepter. Oh no, Qiwangji. Before the veil hit the ground, I ground my teeth and called out the name of the person who came. The sedan bearers had been bribed. I was clearly about to see hope. I had clearly already fallen for Shi Yunzhou. Why, Qiwangji, must you still come and ruin my good fortune? I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. Qiwangji, you and I are irreconcilable. He caught my wrist with his other hand and pressed it against his own face. Little sister Su, see, dear sister, I truly know I was wrong. I couldn't pull my hand back, and still had to endure his repulsiveness. Stay away from me, or I will never let this go. He acted as if he didn't hear me, saying he had already arranged an identity. From now on, I would be Bingyu, his distant cousin he was taking in today. As for the real Bingyu, she had already entered the Xia family household in my place. He stared at me intently. My father agreed to ask the main family branch for a letter of recommendation. When the time comes, I'll take you with me to my post, and we'll go far, far away. Seeing the horror on my face, he frantically tried to comfort me. I know I was a bastard before, but it doesn't matter. I am willing to wait for you to forget Shi Yunzhou. Taking advantage of his relaxed guard, I angrily pulled my hand back and slapped him across the face with the other. He clamped down hard on my wrist, trapping me in place. Susie, I said, we'll live a good life together. I struggled and shouted angrily. Make me hide my name, abandon my identity and follow you. Are you even worthy? I am a daughter of the SU family, and I always will be. You only think about what you want and what you are willing to do. When have you ever asked me? Qiwangji, you are worthless in my eyes. Susie's eyes. He sneered. That is not up to you. He advanced step by step, and my hands were trembling. Mother, father, save me. Just as he was about to reach out and grab me, I suddenly snatched the copper candlestick from the table and smashed it hard against his arm. Qiwangji loosened his grip in pain. I took the chance to break free, only to despairingly discover I couldn't open the door. The courtyard outside was completely cleared, with layers of barriers beyond. I was like a caged beast. No, there was still a way out. Anyway, he is going to ruin my life, and anyway, he can't chase after me right now. Going to jail is better than just surrendering. Worst case, I'll risk this face of mine. At least I can give Mom and Dad an explanation when I get there. I picked up a jade-carved shiji, the size of a head. Qiwangji struggled to turn his head back, and seeing that I was going to fight him desperately, he actually laughed, having you keep me company. It is worth it. Qiwangji, you dream your dreams. I'll walk my own path. The door opened. The moment I heard Shi Yunzhou's voice, he instantly lost all strength, and the jade shiji slipped from my hands and shattered into pieces. The light from outside dispelled the evil energy in the room. Shi Yunzhou flew to my side. Following behind him were the furious provincial governor and the academy headmaster. I grabbed his hand. Shi Yunzhou, let's go home. Before stepping out the door, I instinctively looked back. Qiwangji lay in the shadows of the bed, like a defeated trapped beast, like an abandoned lonely soul staring at me. Having survived the disaster, by the time I came back to my senses, it was already deep into the night. Shi Yunzhou brought in a bowl of pigeon soup, and while removing my hairpins and ornaments for me, he carefully explained what had happened today. When the two sedan chairs collided, the horse he was riding also inexplicably got startled and charged around wildly, nearly losing control. If not for his mother being a martial arts hall daughter who taught him horse riding in his childhood, he would inevitably have been seriously injured. The person who made the horse go crazy was targeting him to harm him. He controlled his horse and rushed back to the Xia family at full speed. The bridal sedan had stopped at the door, but he recognized at a glance that this wasn't the one I sat in. The sedan that married me was arranged by his own hands. How could he not recognize it? He stood before the sedan and spoke coldly. Who is in the sedan? Bingyu burst into tears on the spot. The classmates from Chingsong Academy were all attending the banquet at the Xia family, and several of Qiwangji's cronies had seen Bingyu before. Once the voice came out, what was there not to understand? The mountain chief was even angrier than Shi Yun-jo and directly made a scene at the prefectural office. The Kui family switching brides and snatching marriages in the street, forcing a good woman to be a concubine, secretly harming the Jeyuan. This was simply slapping the governor's face. This matter had to be dealt with. Shi Yun-jo directly led people to knock open the Kui family's main gate. Only then did old Master Kui learn of the mess Kuwangji had caused. Shi Yun-jo pushed open Kuwangji's room door without any obstruction along the way. When he talked about this, Shi Yun-jo was holding a wooden comb and combing my hair. He suddenly said, "Ah, si Kuwangji is truly an eyesore." I deeply agreed. "It is fine. We're about to leave for the capital soon and won't see him again." I spoke too soon. That recommendation letter from Kui Wangji's mouth was actually given to Tianshu Academy in the end. By this time we had already arrived in the capital. Shi Yun-jo took the book from my hands. Before we left Qinghe Prefecture, the mountain chief already reminded me to keep an eye on the Kui family's movements. Seeing me all gloomy, he chuckled softly and pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on my head. "Don't worry, I'll be careful with him." There were only 2 months at most until the spring imperial examination. The days waiting for results were nerve-wracking. Occasionally we'd hear news about Kui Wangji. After arriving in the capital, he'd been hanging around with the legitimate branch disciples of the Kui family, but at least he hadn't given us any trouble. After the spring exam, Shi Yun-jo entered the palace examination and was personally appointed as second-place scholar by the emperor. But when the official appointment edict came down, he wasn't sent to the Hanlin Academy. Instead, he was assigned to be county magistrate of Tingbai County, 1,000 miles from the capital. The previous county magistrate of Tingbai had died suddenly, and that legitimate branch lord of the Kui family who served as Minister of Personnel in the capital personally recommended Shi Yun-jo. With one sentence, he made sure offend all his fellow graduates and led people to mistakenly think he'd offended the emperor and been driven out of the capital. That night I got more and more angry thinking about it, and sat up with a start. The Kui family is bullying people with their power. I am going to report them. Shi Yun-jo raised his hand and pressed me back onto the bed, tucking the covers around me. The time hasn't come yet. Let's wait for him to trap himself in his own cocoon. The moment I locked the courtyard gate, emotions I'd suppressed for so long came flooding back. After going in circles for so many years, all that truly belonged to me was just this one bundle. Me shoulder felt lighter. Shi Yun-jo took the bundle and reached out his hand to me. "Let's go." Our minds instantly became clear. I gripped his hand tightly, and we walked shoulder to shoulder toward the city gate. Near the east gate, there is a wonton stall that has been here for 20 years. Why do I remember it so clearly? This is the last place I saw Father that year. Father was ordered to inspect Jinan Circuit. Before leaving the city, all family ate our last meal together at this stall. He held me for a long time. After that came eternal separation. Father encountered bandits on the road and never came back. Shi Yun-jo listened quietly to my rambling and suddenly looked up. In the distance, at the most elegant tavern in the east of the city, Kui Wangji stood by the railing on the second floor. He held a cup of wine and raised it to me from afar. I raised my tea bowl toward him, tilted my wrist, and the tea spilled from left to right, splashing onto the bluestone pavement. From the capital to Tingbai County takes at least a month. Once you pass Jiangnan and head further south, the roads become difficult, mountains stretch in continuous ranges, and the official roads are sparse and long neglected. Fortunately, once we cross the last mountain range, we'll reach the territory of Baisha Commandery. Shi Yun-jo, I have a bad feeling. As soon as the words left my mouth, an arrow shot out from the deep forest beside the road and embedded itself in the carriage. The horses bolted in fright. RCI hold on tight. Through the gap in the fluttering curtain, I saw bandits emerging from the forest. I gripped the carriage handrail tightly, afraid that making any sound would distract Shi Yun-jo. Shi Yun-jo said, "These people have been following us all along, finding this stretch of road difficult and far from Baisha Commandery. They chose to make their move here." He had abandoned martial arts for scholarly pursuits in his childhood, though he had some foundation from his youth. The attackers were well-trained assassins. An arrow struck the horse's leg, and the carriage jolted out of control. He lifted the curtain and grabbed my hand. A shallow cut grazed his forehead. "We can't keep dragging this out with them. We need to abandon the carriage." "Are you scared, scared?" "Yes, but also not scared." There was the sound of water in the forest to the right. "Like this, we'd take a gamble." The carriage crashed into the forest. Shi Yunjo drew the short blade from his boot and severed the reins. The carriage tilted and knocked aside the pursuers. He pulled me as we jumped from the carriage, locking me in his arms to cushion the impact of landing. We ran desperately toward the sound of water, rolling down the slope. What met our eyes was a turbulent, deep ravine from behind came. "Chase them. Don't let a single one escape." Zi Yunjo held my hand, those petal, like eyes flooding with boundless warmth. Behind him was a bottomless torrent, yet it was as if he were inviting me to share a gentle dream. I gladly accepted the invitation. I was soaking wet all over, shivering uncontrollably, curled up alone in a small cave. After entering the water, the assassins tracked us along the river, and we couldn't shake them off. Finally, Ixi-Yunjo spotted a giant boulder by the river. Behind the boulder was a shallow bank that could barely fit half a person. Gritting his teeth, he pushed me up onto it. Before he could even speak, he only left me with a take care look in his eyes, then drifted away with the current. Because he showed his head, the assassin left, heading straight in his direction. The tears I'd been holding back the whole way finally streamed down. Didn't dare close my eyes all night. Afraid that if I slept I'd never wake up again. Afraid I'd never see Shi-Yunjo again. At the first light of dawn, he leaned on a tree branch and hurried down the mountain. Not long after descending, I saw the gate tower of Baisha Commandery, having not eaten for a day and a night. Upon seeing the gate guard, I only managed to shout out, "Summonon assassinated the Tingbai County magistrate." Before my eyes went black and I collapsed. When I opened my eyes again, I actually saw Hongshu. She was following her sister to Baisha Commandery to look for dessert recipes. Seeing me faint at the city gate, she let out a sharp scream and fainted to the ground, then immediately scrambled up and asked the gate guard what I had said. Using her brother-in-law's connections in Baisha Commandery, she made a big fuss and brought the matter before the Commandery governor. The governor had already sent people to search for Shi-Yunjo. As soon as I could get out of bed, I followed the officers everywhere, searching for Shi-Yunjo's whereabouts, half a month straight with no news. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those eyes of his brimming with moisture. The Commandery governor said that if we still couldn't find him by this point, it seemed the outlook was grim, and if he didn't report it to the court soon, it would be deceiving the imperial government. But I didn't want to give up. The day after the Commandery governor made his report, I packed provisions and prepared to go to the capital to accuse the Kui family of murdering a court official. The morning sun in Baisha County was so blinding I could barely open my eyes. I squinted as I walked out, and eventually walked into a patch of shadow. The person opposite me sat on a horse, refusing to give way. I went left, he went left, I went right. He also turned fuming. I looked up, and fell into that familiar spring of flower petals. Shi-Yunjo sat on his horse, smiling brightly. Behind him followed several officials in flying fish robes. An official in a red flying fish robe rode past Shi-Yunjo and looked down at me from above. "I heard you have a grievance. Who do you want to accuse?" My hands trembled uncontrollably, but my voice was firm and powerful. "This commoner woman accuses the Kui family. The Kui family murdered the former Danshan inspector Su Huayan. I request a thorough investigation." I had waited 5 years for this day. I remember after father passed on sleepless nights. I asked mother many questions. Why would there be bandits on a perfectly good official road? Why did they go straight for father's carriage? Why couldn't the guards stop even a single bandit? Mother cried and told me not to ask any more. "Sire, what can we orphans and widows do? We couldn't do anything. We even fled from the capital back to Danshan County, and the moment we left, our little house was burned to the ground. I was still young then, but I could vaguely sense that someone was targeting our family. Father was sent to Jinan province, which was under the Kui family's control at the time. But mother refused to believe it. Lady Kui was her close friend from their girlhood days. She didn't want to tear apart relations with the Kui family. If Uncle and the others drove me out, I could still use the verbal marriage agreement to keep myself a way out. It was a foolish decision, but in Mother's eyes, I was always the child she worried about most. Later, Mother's anguish festered in her heart, and she couldn't be cured. Uncle and the others were getting restless, wanting to swallow up the Danshan estate. The day Mother passed, Uncle came to the door. I knew that if I didn't put on a do or die attitude today, they would devour me to the bone. So I moved a stool and stood at the main gate, holding the last family letter Father left behind, and shouted sternly. My father had friends throughout the court and countryside during his lifetime. This letter contains their names. If you dare touch me today, Simonin will seek justice for me tomorrow. Uncle was somewhat of a scholar, greedy but cared about face. If word got out that he bullied his orphaned niece, his reputation would be ruined for life. They immediately softened their tone and begged me not to make a scene. I said I didn't want the estate, but they had to do two things for me: bury Mother and Father together, and arrange travel documents to send me to the Qi family in Qinghe Commandery. Actually, the Qi family didn't expect me to show up at their door, but they also didn't think I could stir up any trouble. It just so happened that Kui Wangji banished me to the side courtyard to live with the servants, which actually gave me the chance to figure out how the Kui family operated. Until one day, I accidentally found a piece of official silver from Jinan Circuit in Kui Wangji's study. If it was just speculation before, at that moment I was certain the Qi family had killed my father. But one piece of official silver couldn't clear my father's name. Every grievance has its source, every debt its debtor. I hadn't wanted to take it out on Kui Wangji, but the first day I saw Shi Yunzhou in the study. He made a complete mess of the room, and I found a wooden paperweight that had fallen and broken on the floor. A paperweight that had been right under my nose every day was actually a puzzle box. Inside was a list of officials eliminated by the Kui family. One of them was unmistakably my father. Just because Father had been assigned to Jinan Circuit to carry out inspectorate duties, the Kui family found it difficult to conceal things for a while. With him gone, naturally nothing could be investigated. Kui Wangji knew all of this. He didn't find it shameful. Instead, he saw these people as the Kui family's stepping stones to success. He kept the names in the puzzle box to savor them repeatedly, studying the Kui family's methods of climbing to power. But how could I, with my meager means, expose this and make it known to the heavens? I set my sights on the assignments I wrote for Kui Wangji. I composed the Qi family's crimes into poetry and essays within the assignments, hoping that if the tutor or headmaster saw them, there might be a sliver of hope. As for myself, from the moment I entered the Qi family, I never thought there'd be a day I could escape unscathed. Even if I were discovered, it would just be a fight to the death. In my despair, I suddenly noticed next to the poetry I wrote for Kui Wangji, there was a line of extremely small annotations written with strong and elegant strokes. Secret words like fireflies illuminate the night. This person understands my veiled words. That very night, I burned the assignments and, after observing for a few days with nothing happening, I continued to turn the matters on the list into poems and pass them along. That person would always respond to me, using a line or two of poetry to instruct me to act carefully. Occasionally, they would add a few more words expressing concern for the country and its people. 2 lines of poetry, merely a dozen or so characters, they became the hope that sustained me through those days. I often speculated about what kind of person he was. From those poems I could glimpse his overflowing talent. I thought if such a person became an official, he should have the chance to reopen Father's case. It wasn't until that day when Kui Wangji angrily forbade me from reading or writing that I realized this person was Shi Yunzhou. The only thing I didn't expect was that Shi Yunzhou would suddenly want to marry me, whether his intentions were genuine or not. I am grateful to him for helping me escape. After escaping from the Kui family, I originally planned to take the evidence to the capital myself to file a complaint. Who knew Shi Yunzhou would stop me? He said that my strength alone was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. That the main branch of the Kui family was now the Minister of Personnel and that I'd only hit walls if I went to the capital. A commoner suing an official, and such a high-ranking one at that. I wouldn't even be able to cross the threshold of the yamen. Moreover, so much time had passed since father's incident, no one would care. There is no way to win. I felt somewhat hopeless. Si-Yun-jo told me to wait for him, wait until he receives an official title, and using himself as bait, force the Kui family to make a move against him. When the Kui family murders a court official, the court will have to intervene whether they want to or not, and then presenting the evidence I have, we can catch the Kui family completely off guard. I thought, this person must be crazy. Why would he go this far for me? But Si-Yun-jo said, because I like you. Toby at Susie's beck and call. She finds it as sweet as honey. Secret words like fireflies illuminating the dark night. What do these 7 characters mean? They mean, I see you. When everyone else treats you as invisible, I saw your cries hidden between the lines. Someone who has struggled alone in darkness for so long suddenly discovers that someone is responding to her. Do you know how important this is? Susie I doesn't lack courage, doesn't lack wisdom. What she lacks is just one thing. I see you. Si-Yun-jo gave her that. And then he said, at your command. Why is this line so good? He returned the initiative to Susie I. It is not, I'll rescue you, but wherever you point, I'll strike. Your revenge, I'll help you take it together. This is what it truly means to walk side by side. The Kui family never imagined that a mere new second-place scholar could be so difficult to deal with, even bringing the court itself to personally try this case. During the half-month Si-Yun-jo was missing, he ran into officials secretly investigating the case. They were investigating the Kui family's case. When we left the capital, an impeachment petition against the Minister of Personnel appeared on His Majesty's desk, and the evidence I gathered over 4 years at the Kui family implicated many connections. Those who should be imprisoned were imprisoned. Those who should be exiled were exiled. The Minister of Personnel Kui Delang, at the height of his power, was severely punished according to law after his crimes were investigated, with no chance of ever rising again. The enormous Kui family completely collapsed overnight. When the main branch fell, naturally they bit back at the collateral branches who had helped them amass wealth. Lord and Lady Kui of Chinki Commandery had just received word and wanted to flee when they were directly blocked in their house by officials, who lifted the floorboards of the east room in the west courtyard. Underneath was all gold extorted from the mouths of disaster victims. The 2 were arrested on the spot. The crimes committed by the Kui family were heinous. The entire clan was severely sentenced according to law, with men exiled and women made into government slaves. Bing Yu led the officials to the tavern where Kui Wangji had once sought her out, reporting the Kui family for forcibly abducting commoner women and forcing people into slavery. Even so, she couldn't get a good outcome. She had climbed onto the Kui family to escape from her sea of suffering. Then learned the Kui family's way of doing things, trying to climb up by stepping on me, but this path was fundamentally unstable. The emperor, secluded deep in his palace, never imagined his eyes and ears were blocked, in places beyond his notice. The rot had long since spread everywhere. The former court and inner palace underwent a massive purge, leaving everyone in fear for their safety. The imperial edict had been issued. Matters in the capital concluded, yet Si-Yun-jo still had to take up his post in Tingbai County. But this time there was no need to hurry. Before departure, I sat by the wonton stall waiting for Si-Yun-jo to come find me from the Ministry of Personnel. From afar I heard a commotion. The wonton beauty explained with a smile. I heard they're escorting that bunch from the Kui family to the northern frontier today. It is so far away over such rough terrain, who knows if they'll survive the journey. She dug out a basket of rotten eggs from the firewood pile, little sister. You eat first while I go take care of some proper business. When the prison cart escorting the Kui family passed in front of me, it stank terribly. The rotten eggs were already quite civilized. Some people had picked up spoiled vegetable leaves to throw at the prison cart. The escorting officer cursed, fucking unlucky, making me suffer along with you bastards. While speaking, he urged the convoy to quicken their pace. The person inside looked like they'd already suffered quite a bit. Taking a closer look, I regretted not asking the wonton beauty for a couple rotten eggs. The once all-powerful Qiwangje was curled up in the prison cart, his face filthy and hidden behind disheveled hair, revealing only a pair of eyes glaring hatefully at the crowd. Suddenly, he saw me. The moment their eyes met, a flash of panic and embarrassment flickered through those eyes, full of resentment and anger. His mouth moved, but in the end, he weakly lowered his head. I picked up the tea bowl and raised it toward him from afar. I poured it onto the bluestone pavement from left to right. Father, mother, your daughter, was fortunate enough to witness the downfall of the Qui family. With the fall of the Qui family, the dark clouds that had pressed down on me for years instantly dispersed, and my world could finally see the light. Ah, see I. Suddenly, a scent of medicinal herbs wafted over, completely covering that foul stench. Shi Yunzhou led his horse carriage and stopped in front of the stall. He stood in the light in white robes, with the appearance of a noble gentleman. Even the wind was gentle toward him. He opened his hand toward me, a pear syrup candy lying in his palm. He tilted his hand to let the candy slide to his fingertips, then brought it to my mouth. Our RC's good days are long ahead. Have a candy first to sweeten things up. I was instantly filled with joy. Grabbing his arm, I jumped onto the horse carriage, and he followed with a smile. I threw myself onto Shi Yunzhou's back. Let's go pick up Xiao Hei. Shi Yunzhou's perspective, the first time Shi Yunzhou saw Susi wasn't in Qiwangji's study. 4 years ago, just as he came out of the bookshop, he saw a young girl hastily dismissing the escort who had brought her into the city, renting an ox cart and arriving at the Kui family's door. Presumably, she was a relative coming to seek refuge with the Kui family. Shi Yunzhou shook his head inwardly. The Ku family of Qinghe isn't the kind of family that is easy to get along with. What they hate most is poor relatives coming to mooch off them. I am afraid this girl is going to end up embarrassed. But what does that have to do with him? He had intended to leave. There were still many things at the academy, and the headmaster was going to test him on policy essays today. But seeing the girl standing pitifully in the sun, clutching her little bundle, he couldn't bear to just leave. If she weren't desperate to survive, what girl would go alone to seek refuge with another family? Besides, it was still the hour when the headmaster was taking his afternoon nap. What is more, Aunt Zhu in the academy's small kitchen complains every day about being too busy. If the Qi family kicks her out, at least she could work as a kitchen helper at the academy and make a living. Fortunately, half an hour later, the Qi family's doorkeeper called out lazily, "Miss Su, please come in." Before long, Shi Yunzhou forgot about this matter. Just a chance encounter, nothing worth dwelling on. Until that day, when the headmaster was utterly vexed because Qiwangji stubbornly refused to return to the academy, and old Master Kui didn't think there was anything wrong with his son, immediately blaming the academy. If it weren't for you, headmaster, assigning so much coursework and forcing my son to be unable to return to the academy for his studies, why would my son be drowning himself in taverns every day? If you don't know how to teach, this old man will have no choice but to mention it to my elder brother who serves as an official in the capital. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have someone else take over as headmaster. The headmaster felt utterly wronged. The little old man, highly respected and virtuous, was being threatened to his face by a youngster, lamenting repeatedly that people's hearts aren't what they used to be. He even started packing his things, preparing to retire and return to his hometown. After all, he had been the headmaster for decades. If he went begging Qiwangji to return to the academy, it would make people look down on Qingsong Academy. The headmaster couldn't go, but Shi Yunzhou, as a fellow student, cooled. Though he looked down on Qiwangji's frivolous ways, he couldn't accept the headmaster suffering a setback at the hands of someone like him. This was also his first time stepping through the Kui family's door. Just as he expected, Qiwangji was arrogant and unbridled, seeing that only he had come. He directly smashed up the study. The papers from the desk scattered all over the floor. With just a glance, he could tell this delicate and clever handwriting wasn't Qiwangji's. Shi Yunzhou immediately felt relieved. Since he knew to find someone to copy for him, that meant he wasn't truly refusing to return to the academy. It is just that the person copying books for him would probably have to start all over again. Just as he was about to leave, he saw this unlucky soul. The girl who had been waiting at the Kui family's door a few days ago was glaring at Kui Wangji with reddened almond-shaped eyes. Her eye rims were red, and her nose tip was red too. She looked even more pitiful than that day. Shi Yunzhou's heart felt like it had been struck hard by a rabbit. Someone who could write such beautiful characters must have been a girl treasured and doted on by her parents before. Shi Yunzhou regretted it for the first time. If only he had stopped her one step earlier that day, how could she have ended up suffering torment from that bastard Kui Wangji? The next time he heard news of that young lady was from the mouths of Kui Wangji's good-for-nothing friends. They teased Kui Wangji about his good fortune, having hidden away in his manor a beautiful darling who could deal with his tutor for him. Susi. Just hearing that name, you know she is a delicate little lady. Susi's two characters gently circled between Shi Yunzhou's teeth, then travelled down his throat and into his heart. Though Kui Wangji spoke with disdain, Shi Yunzhou could tell he must actually like Miss Susi. Besides, they were betrothed. Being so, he had no reason to feel sorry for Miss Susi, but it was still such a shame. Shi Yunzhou had completely lost count of how many times he'd smelled the scent of powder and rouge on Kui Wangji. These past days, as he graded Kui Wangji's coursework for the tutor, he could sense the talent Susi possessed. Though her policy essays showed some immaturity in their insights, she could see the common people, could see the hardships of their livelihood. She also had a playful streak, deliberately writing affected and pretentious verses for Kui Wangji, just to make the tutor roll his eyes at him after reading them. Taking an interest in another man's fiancé was truly not the conduct of a gentleman. But was he a gentleman? If he were a gentleman, why would he feel a trace of secret delight upon hearing Kui Wangji say, "Whichever of you passes the imperial exam first, hurry up and marry her away, so she won't stay in my house being an eyesore"? After that secret delight came heartache. How could such a spirited young lady end up wasted on Kui Wangji? Kui Wangji is out there running his mouth and ruining her reputation, saying she is climbing the social ladder. Does she even know about all this? Women in this world are so devoted. If she knew, how heartbroken she'd be. Shi Yunzhou wanted to be a petty person for once. Just once, to tattle on Susi, just this one time. When he picked up his brush, he suddenly realized something was off. Why was this essay starting to satirize corrupt officials, saying things like, "Pity the bystanders caught in the game, mistaking winners and losers as they ask around"? Shi Yunzhou had a vague feeling that Susi was trying to say something. He carefully reviewed the poems Kui Wangji submitted each time. The more he read, the more alarmed he became. Combined with the policy essays, he realized Susi seemed to be exposing the Kui family's crimes. What exactly is she trying to do? Could it be that she doesn't actually want to marry Kui Wangji? Shi Yunzhou gently pressed his fist against his lips, forcibly suppressing the complex emotions surging up in his heart. This girl is so clever. She actually came up with this method to find allies. Shi Yunzhou felt he needed to help her. No, he had to help her. Shi Yunzhou had been troubled by something lately. He discovered that Kui Wangji was mentioning Susi more and more frequently, and even his no-good friends were starting to ask Kui Wangji when he'd be bringing Susi home as his bride. Kui Wangji always wore a disdainful expression, putting Susi down for being proud and wanting to marry a Juran scholar, saying he needed to properly wear down Susi's temperament. Shi Yunzhou ran his tongue over his back teeth. As if Kui Wangji is worthy. If you don't treasure her, don't blame others for fighting over her. Forget about a Juran. Susi deserves better. At the looming banquet, Kui Wangji got drunk and started joking about Susi again. I should have brought Susi here today. With so many Juran around, she wouldn't be able to take her eyes off them. Shi Yunzhou couldn't hold back anymore. He looked at Kui Wangji with a half-smile. Brother Kui, does that statement count? Kui Wangji's drunkenness instantly dissipated by half. He stared at Shi Yunzhou for quite a while, finally revealing a mocking smile. You try it. Shi Yunzhou could tell that Kui Wangji was very confident. Confident that Susi wouldn't marry anyone else. After all, she had waited for him for 4 years. waiting until she became an old maid. But Shi Yunzhou understood better than anyone that Kui Wangji couldn't win. He wasn't worthy. His entire Kui family wasn't worthy. Yet when facing Suci, when she asked him, "Do you know that Kui Wangji and I have a marriage agreement?" he couldn't help but panic. Was he too rash? He should have written to ask Suci, but he couldn't wait anymore, not even for a moment. He had dreams all night long. Every single dream was of Suci crying. She had suffered too much. Shi Yunzhou didn't want to let Suci cry. That bastard Kui Wangji was really fucking annoying, always trying to steal his family. God knows how furious he was when he discovered the bridal sedan had been switched. After the fury came fear. Everyone said Suci was gentle, but Shi Yunzhou knew that no one was more resolute than Suc, that rotten egg. Kui Wangji, why should he drag his Suc down with him in mutual destruction? So, after pushing open Kui Wangji's door, he couldn't help wanting to rush over and teach Kui Wangji a lesson. Whatever career, whatever future. In that moment he didn't care about any of it, but Suci held him back and pulled his rationality back as well. She said, "Shi Yunzhou, let's go home." Right. He had a home again. His and Suci's home. He couldn't act rashly. If something happened to him, who would protect Suci? Yunzhou held back again and again, and made a note of this. "Kui Wangji, I'll just wait and see your end." Suci said she didn't want to implicate Shi Yunzhou's bright future. She wanted to file an imperial petition herself. Shi Yunzhou was frantic with worry. Imperial petitions weren't so easy to file. The Kui family had connections everywhere. Suci had no chance of even getting to the palace gates. Shi Yunzhou understood Suci wanted to seek justice for her father-in-law, but he couldn't let Suci make a pointless sacrifice. He wasn't afraid of being implicated. If he was afraid of being implicated, why would he have responded to Suci's poem? Knowing the road ahead was difficult and then not taking it, why would he have gone through all those imperial exams to become an official? Shi Yunzhou held Suci and pleaded with her. "You can use me, I am willing." During his time at Tianshu Academy, Shi Yunzhou had noticed that the Kui family's position in the capital wasn't as solid as it appeared on the surface. The Kui family's eldest son monopolized the Ministry of Personnel, placing people everywhere, and had already encroached on the interests of many aristocratic families. Right now, it looks all calm and peaceful. All that is missing is a stone to stir up the ripples. Who knew the Kui family would deliver the opportunity right into his hands? When Shi Yunzhou learned he was being dispatched to Tingbai County, he knew the Kui family was out to harm him. To be more precise, it was Kui Wangji who wanted to eliminate him. The eldest son of the Kui family didn't think there was any problem. Just a newly appointed second-place scholar who hadn't accomplished anything yet, getting in the way of the Kui family's descendants, so naturally he should be eliminated. But they couldn't make a move in the capital. He had to be transferred out. The road to Tingbai County was long and treacherous. A scholar dying along the way would be perfectly normal. There are so many strange incidents in the world. There is always some blind bandit out there, isn't there? Shi Yunzhou hadn't wanted to bring Suc into danger. But Suci said, "Shi Yunzhou, don't underestimate me. I am not afraid. With me here, the Kui family's assassins will have to think twice no matter what. I want to avenge father and mother, but I can't use your life to do it." She said if they couldn't escape, she would deal with the assassins herself. The greatest meaning of her life was to seek justice for father and mother, know that she saw hope of bringing down the Kui family. She was willing to risk everything. She could risk it all, but Shi Yunzhou couldn't. He still wanted to grow old together with Suci. Before leaving to assume his post, Shi Yunzhou sought out an old acquaintance in court and negotiated terms with the commander. The newly appointed third-place scholar was the commander's son, and Shi Yunzhou learned that his family had long held a grudge against eldest son Kui. The court had piled up a bunch of old unsolved cases, all because Kui Delang obstructed them everywhere, making it difficult to investigate clearly. Unable to find clues, and with Kui Delang's silver tongue, the commander was humiliated in front of His Majesty. When the commander heard that Shi Yunzhou wanted to put himself in the game, regardless of whether it would work or not, he agreed immediately. After all, The fall of the Kui family would only benefit him with no downside. As long as he could catch Kui Delang's weak spot, he could tear open this breach in the Kusi family. And Shi Yun-jo had only one requirement. If something happened to him, the commander must take care of Susi's matter. Therefore, after Shi Yun-jo and Susi left the city, they walked in front, followed by assassins behind them, and even further behind followed a team of officers. Shi Yun-jo didn't tell Susi about these things, because he wasn't sure either whether the assassins would make their move or if he could escape. He only told Susi that if there was no news from him, she should just go to the capital to find the commander, and use the investigation of his case to expose more of the Kui family's shady dealings. Fortunately, fate favored Shi Yun-jo. After the officers captured an assassin alive, the Kui family's glorious days also entered a countdown. As for Kui Wangji, he still used some dishonorable methods. All those things Kui Wangji had done to Su Shi Yun-jo hadn't forgotten a single one. Brother Kui, after leaving the capital this time, don't come back again, and Ishi Yun-jo, I'm going to earn an imperial mandate for a CI. I've read this story over and over again. Each time I have different feelings. But there are a few things that I've engraved in my heart since the first read, and the more I think about them, the more important they seem. I want to have a serious talk with you all about this. Susi waited for Kui Wangji for 4 years. During those 4 years, she lived in the servants' quarters, received no monthly wages, had no charcoal fire in winter, and wrote his assignments, brewed tea, and embroidered patterns for him. She turned herself into the most inconspicuous shadow in the Kui household. All because of her mother's dying wish. All because she thought, if I endure a bit longer, maybe things will get better. But you see, the word wait a prerequisite. Someone who is worth it won't make you wait. Yixi Yunjo never made Suyusi wait. The day after he passed the provincial exam, he showed up at her door with betrothal gifts. He rented a small courtyard in advance. He even remembered she was afraid of the dark and showed up at her door first thing the next morning, holding a little black dog. Susi said, there is no rush for the wedding. He said, we'll marry by the end of the month. His every action told Susi, you don't need to wait. I am already here. And what about Kui Wangji's wait for me to pass the exam? That wasn't a promise. That was a lock. He used words he'd never honor to pin Susi in place, making her unable to leave, afraid to leave. And if she did leave, she'd be accused of being unfaithful. So sisters, if you are currently waiting for someone, please stop and ask yourself this question. Is he making you wait, or is he walking toward you? If someone truly cares about you, he'll come running to find you, not stand in place saying, wait a bit longer. The second thing, about deserving or not, Susi was too used to feeling she didn't deserve. This wasn't her fault. It was the Kui family telling her over and over, you are climbing above your station. It was Kui Wangji saying again and again, you are an eyesore. It was Madame Kui repeatedly manipulating her with the words, for your mother's sake. When a person is denied day after day during their most vulnerable years, of course they'll start doubting themselves. But Susi always deserved it. So if you've ever been in a relationship or environment where people repeatedly told you you can't do it, you don't deserve it, you should be grateful. Please remember, Susi, it is not that you don't deserve it. It is that the people saying these things don't deserve to have you. The third thing, about choices. What moves me most in this story isn't how good Shi Yun-jo is, but that Susi dares to choose. Think about her situation at the time. She had no money, no backing, not even a decent bundle, but she still chose. She chose the person who rented a small courtyard with a persimmon tree and waited for her, chose the person who wrote secret words like fireflies illuminating the night beside the poem. In this life, what is most frightening isn't having no choice, but clearly having a choice yet trapping yourself in place, because of fear, because of habit, because of others' opinions. What Susi teaches us is even if you only have a small bundle, you still have the right to choose the direction you want to go. If this story made your eyes well up at some moment, or reminded you of someone or something, then that is exactly right. Good stories are never just other people's stories. They always reflect ourselves at some turn. May you and I both be like Susi, not giving up on ourselves when let down, daring to believe when treated well. May the person you meet be Shi Yunzhou, not Kui Wangji. May your good days stretch long ahead. First, have a candy and sweeten things up a bit.